to the hardwood. The 7 News I-Team talking one-on-one with this guy, the infamous former NBA ref Tim Donaghy. He went to federal prison, you might remember, back in 2008.
Former FBI agent John Lahr, who was my attorney out of Tampa in New York. And we think it's just the tip of the iceberg. We think that this thing is going to be much bigger than it already is right now.
Something very unsettling is happening inside the world of basketball. Multiple arrests, federal investigations, and whispers of game rigging have shaken both the NBA and WNBA to their core. At the center of it all is a name fans hoped they'd never hear again. Tim Donaghy, the former referee who once brought the league to its knees, has resurfaced, claiming this is only the beginning. Betting markets flagged strange activity. Coaches and players are under scrutiny, and the fear is spreading fast. Hit like if you think this truth should never stay buried, because in this video, we'll uncover how one ghost from 2007 might be haunting the game again, and why the stakes are even greater this time.
For a major insider information betting scheme. Today, our John Barr got his take on the league's latest gambling scandal that netted a current NBA player and a head coach.
The details from last Thursday's federal indictment were stunning. Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups accused of associating with organized crime and luring unsuspecting gamblers into high-stakes poker games to cheat them out of their money. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and former NBA guard and coach Damon Jones accused of sharing inside information with gamblers and altering the outcomes of NBA games.
In one clip, we hear the charges, such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today, an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The clip goes on, revealing that regulators and legal sportsbooks flagged betting behavior around a March 2023 game. The league was alerted, and the players involved, prominent names. The league reaction? A public statement that insufficient evidence was found despite the unusual patterns.
There's a referee, former referee, disgraced one by the name of Tim Donaghy, I don't know the story. You can find this on like New York Post and MSN, that for some reason, this man was banned from the NBA, and it was admitted that he had some ties with Mafia and fixing NBA games and things of that nature. Well, he's like a commentator now.
Imagine a major league being forced to answer questions from Congress, while sportsbooks say they were the first to raise the alarm. That's not just embarrassment, it's a structural crisis. Donaghy, having once served time for betting on games he officiated, now says this is the beginning of something bigger. The tone isn't speculative, it's a cold, sure feeling.
I was just discussing this with Warren Flagg, a former FBI agent, and John Lahr, who was my attorney out of Tampa in New York. And we think it's just the tip of the iceberg. We think that this thing is going to be much bigger than it already is right now. In my situation, they were able to put a lid on it and paint me as one bad apple and the only guy that was involved, when we all know that wasn't the case. And this, they're not going to be able to do that. It looks like the FBI agent is very adamant that he's going to turn over every stone. He's going to go after everybody that's involved. And we're already seeing that there's some other NFL players that were retired Hall of Famers that were at these poker games and involved.
Have you ever seen a debut scandal like this in any sport? Type yes if you have, no if you haven't. If the accusations hold, this is more than a scandal. It's a tectonic shift in how sports governance must respond. But while this story rages in the NBA's halls, the WNBA watches from the sidelines, and that silence may be louder than the charges.
You know, you're just starting to hear a little bit of what they're involved with, which means they're a lot deeper in and a lot more involved. So it's just a matter of time before the whole truth comes out.
Well, you just alluded to it at the start. When the federal government comes at you with an extensive indictment and list of charges, as it did with all of these individuals last week, what does that mean for those people who are on the receiving end of those charges?
It means a lot of lonely, sad nights thinking about what your future is. And for me, I was the father of 4 daughters, so they had me scared to death. I didn't know how long I was going to be in prison.
To understand the weight of this new scandal, we have to go back to where it all began, with a man named Tim Donaghy. Donaghy was an NBA referee from 1994 to 2007, and for more than a decade he was one of the league's trusted officials. But in 2007, the truth came out. He had been betting on games he was assigned to officiate, using insider information to give himself and his associates an edge in the betting markets. The FBI launched an investigation, and Donaghy eventually pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and to transmitting wagering information through interstate commerce. He served 15 months in federal prison.
Before I sat in a room up in New York while my attorney John Laurel and Warren Flagg met with FBI agents, and they left me in this room, and stacked to the ceiling were hundreds of boxes all marked John Gotti trial, and on a whiteboard was crimes that may have pertained to me: gambling 5 to 10 years, money laundering 5 to 10 years. So, I was scared to death, and rightfully so. And, with that being said, it's a lot of lonely nights.
In his book Personal Foul and countless interviews since, Donaghy has claimed that what he did was not an isolated case of greed, but part of a deeper culture of control. He said the league often influenced referees to extend playoff series or protect star players to keep television ratings high. Those accusations shook the NBA and sparked years of debate about the integrity of professional sports. Now, more than a decade later, Donaghy is speaking again. He says the recent investigations into betting irregularities are not surprising. They are symptoms of a system that never fully fixed itself. In one interview, he called this just the tip of the iceberg.
Are you surprised an active NBA head coach got caught up in something like this?
I'm not, because I know what a lot of these players, did, whether it was on planes, gambling, in warm-ups prior to the tip-offs. I remember standing at half court one time in Washington, and Michael Jordan and Rip Hamilton betting tens of thousands of dollars, shooting three-point shots as I stood there as the clock wound down to start NBA games.
So here's the question. Is Donaghy just a man chasing relevance, or is he the only one honest enough to say what others won't? The game might look cleaner now, but the structure remains the same. Legalized betting only made the numbers bigger. Hit the like button if you think sport should belong to players, not betting markets, because this is where the story turns from scandal to survival.
WNBA, as you know, they're calling for, players in the WNBA are calling for more money. They 9%, I believe, accordingly. They get 9% of total revenue compared to roughly 50% of the revenue of NBA players. Should they be getting a larger share of the revenue in the WNBA?
Yes. I mean, I think the share isn't the right way to look at it because there's so much more revenue in the NBA. I think you should look at it in absolute numbers in terms of what they're making, and they are going to get a big increase in this cycle of collective bargaining, and they deserve it.
Adam Silver, the NBA's commissioner since 2014, has built his reputation on modernization. He opened the door to sports betting partnerships, welcomed sponsorship deals with major gambling platforms, and promised transparency in all league operations. But in early 2023, those promises began to look fragile. Betting companies noticed irregular wagering on a specific game in March 2023. The patterns were so unusual that the regulators themselves alerted the NBA. These weren't casual bets. They showed deliberate spikes tied to strange in-game decisions. The league quietly launched its own investigation and even questioned the player involved, who reportedly handed over his phone. Yet the conclusion from the commissioner's office was simple and unsatisfying. There was not enough evidence to move forward.
We're talking about the NBA gambling scandal here, okay, which is two parts. The fake the injuries, basically that's point shaving in so many words, because you don't have your best players on the basketball court. And then two, the casino gambling thing, okay, where gamblers were invited by these famous celebrity basketball players, and then you get scammed out of their money.
To many fans, that sounded like the same old story, a league protecting its image. Critics accused Silver of prioritizing business relationships over truth. Legal gambling has poured millions into the NBA's ecosystem, and any major scandal could shake investor confidence. Meanwhile, Congress demanded an explanation, asking for a full briefing from Silver's office. This is a crossroads moment. The man who encouraged the marriage between basketball and betting now stands at risk of being consumed by it. If the league cannot prove innocence, when data companies sound the alarm, what faith should fans have in the scoreboard?
So everyone associated with the NBA certainly remembers in 2007 when former referee Tim Donaghy pled guilty to betting on games he officiated. But both the FBI and an independent investigation commissioned by the NBA exonerated Donaghy of actual game fixing. Well, in a story released today by ESPN The Magazine, writer Scott Eaton outlines a 2-year investigation in which he interviewed more than 100 people and looked at a sample of 40 games officiated by Donaghy and feels there is clear evidence that, in fact, Donaghy was actually fixing the games.
Would you trust a referee's whistle if you knew millions were riding on a single call? Type trust if you still believe in the league, or change if you think it's time for a new kind of accountability. Because the next chapter shows that even the WNBA might not be as far removed from this chaos as it seems. Now the story branches out into the WNBA. From Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, to other major figures like Rozier and Billups, this investigation touches multiple levels, not just the NBA. If true, this means the WNBA's integrity is at risk too.
I'm not going to ask you to review 100 interviews or however many hours of games and everything, but I do want to get, you were playing at the time, and when that was revealed, that he just even bet on the games, how did it feel for you guys as players?
Well, as players, I mean, when you playing in the game, and there sometimes you feel like you've been, not had the best officiating crew, and that, you either over-officiated or under-officiated. And if I was to listen to my friends.
But, and here's the twist, the WNBA doesn't have the same media firepower, financial buffer, or global brand of the NBA. It cannot absorb scandal as easily. Many players argue the league already fights for recognition. A credibility blow could cost more. I believe that while the WNBA may have been insulated so far, the shared infrastructure with the NBA, such as officiating, marketing partners, and betting data, may be vulnerable to the same weaknesses. Could this be the first time the WNBA's fate depends on the NBA's oversight and not only their own talent? And remember, this isn't just about players and games. It's about systems, business models, and our faith in sport.
I would believe there is cheating going on in the NBA because, prior to this coming out.
They thought you should have won every game, Tracy.
Prior to this coming out, man, the referees cheated you, man.
Right.
You hear that all the time, man. They cheated you. That was a bad call. All this. But when this came out, it was like, see, I told you. I told you. But it's all speculation. We will never know as players. But it does make you think sometimes watching some of these games like, maybe. But, we will never know.
You were coaching
I was coaching. So as a coach, you go back and you have conversations with officials during games when you feel they made bad calls. And there was a lot of incidents where I felt that they didn't make the correct call.
This is where things get uncomfortable. What happened with Donaghy in 2007 was not just one man's mistake. It was a window into how business and sport have learned to coexist, sometimes at the cost of honesty. Donaghy claimed that league decisions often favored what was best for ratings, ticket sales, and televised drama rather than fairness. Today, the league has expanded those same priorities through legalized betting and global partnerships worth billions. When profit becomes the measure of success, truth can quietly disappear. The transcript implies that some officials were more focused on calming public fear than exposing the full truth. That tension is not new. Every major sport faces the same pressure to keep fans watching, advertisers happy, and controversies contained.
With Tim being one of those referees, over the years that I had to deal in with, I can't say pleasure, that you had to deal with some of the referees. I had a lot of choice words for referees back in those days because of I thought, I'm sure you did too, that we felt that it was unfair on some of the calls that would be made. So when this whole scandal came out, Rachel, I was kind of like, that makes sense. Doesn't surprise me.
From my view, that is the danger. The moment data analysts and sportsbooks start detecting problems before league investigators do, control of the game begins to slip away. The WNBA, though quieter in headlines, sits under the same structure and the same financial systems. Ask yourself this: when business wins, does integrity ever recover? Type "protect the game" if you believe sports should be decided by skill and not by spreadsheets or betting odds.
With all the money that's going around with betting and all the stuff, these guys are human beings. The money that they're making probably from the NBA is not the money that they would hope to make. You know, so some of them need extra cash.
I got mouths
so,
to feed.
Yeah, so you knew that sooner or later something like this was going to go down.
Yeah, look, this is the danger in every pro sport. We've seen different pro sports deal with their own sort of betting gan. I mean, you can go all the way to Black Sox. I mean, there's different kind of scandals that are involved. But this incident is what is born sort of a lot of the transparency that the NBA does now, right?
Now it is time to separate the proven from the possible. Tim Donaghy's history is real. He was a former referee who admitted to betting on games, served time in prison, and forever changed how fans view officiating. It is also true that modern sports leagues now monitor betting data closely, and that sportsbooks track suspicious wagers using advanced systems designed to flag irregular patterns. Still, the story matters because it exposes a recurring weakness. When the flow of gambling money grows faster than oversight, temptation and manipulation follow. Even without confirmed guilt, the risk itself is enough to shake trust. Doubt is healthy, but facts matter more. Question the system, not the scoreboard. And if you believe fans deserve complete transparency before they place their faith or their bets in a game, hit subscribe now.
I know that these guys are involved heavily in gambling. They have the itch for it, the excitement for it, so it doesn't really surprise me that it's spilled out onto the floor.
It's one thing to be involved in gambling, it's quite another to associate with members of organized crime who are, according to this indictment, running illegal poker games that are fixed. You know, when you look at those allegations, and again, Chauncey Billups and the others will have their days in court to defend themselves, and I know he's already come out publicly to say he's innocent through his attorney. But when you look at those allegations associating with known figures of organized crime.
Tim Donaghy once blew the whistle on the system. Now he's shouting again. Whether the new scandal runs as deep as it sounds or not, one thing is certain. The cracks in basketball's foundation are showing. When the line between competition and commerce disappears, what happens to the soul of the game? The moment money starts calling fouls, integrity stops mattering. Comment betting if you think gambling will destroy pro basketball, or sport if you believe it can still be saved. Share this if you think fans deserve transparency, not cover-ups. Because the real question isn't just whether a game was fixed, it's whether the entire system already is. And if we can't trust the scoreboard anymore, what's left to believe in?